Yeah, I was so what am I saying? I was saying that all of us are somewhere doing optimization since morning till night in our day-to-day life. At this moment, also, we might be optimizing our time, and must be doing some several tasks parallelly. That is not possible actually, but we just try to optimize because time given to us is short and task list given to us is a long list. So in today's talk, we will be discussing what is optimization and what are the nature inspired approaches which can help us out in doing this optimization process, right? So let's start with this word optimization. Optimization is the act of obtaining the best result under the given circumstances. And if I wish to make you aware of this thing, suppose that a student is going to appear in an examination, his task will be to maximize his score while satisfying the constraints imposed on him or her. Could be the constraints? The constraints could be like he has to complete all the answers within a duration of, let's say, 3 hours if the exam is of 3 hours duration, or 2 hours if it is of 2 hours duration, like that. Okay. Then second, design, construction and maintenance of engineering systems involve decision making both at the managerial as well as the technological level. If we talk about the engineering systems, let it be design, let it be construction, let it be maintenance of those engineering systems, we have to take certain decisions both at the managerial as well as the technological levels. And what those decisions could be, these decisions are like, we wish to minimize the effort that we need to put, or we wish to minimize the cost that we incur on that project, you can say, or on that engineering system. At the same time, we wish to maximize the desired benefit, or in other words, what we can say, we wish to maximize the profit. So these are the two conflicting goals which we wish to achieve, and this is called optimization. Every problem which involves either minimization or maximization, that can be considered as an optimization problem. So as you can see, in our day-to-day life, we just encounter these sorts of problems since morning till evening. Reason behind, we want to minimize the effort, or we want to minimize the time spent on certain tasks, and we want to maximize our outcome. We want to maximize our productivity. Fine. So this is what an optimization is in a layman's language. Then if we talk about optimization, this is the, it can be defined officially like this. Optimization is the process of finding the conditions that give the minimum or maximum value of a function. Function can be the task which we wish to achieve, where the function represents the effort required or the desired benefit. Means what we want to minimize or what we want to maximize. Sometimes there can be a single objective, sometimes there can be multiple objectives. And in real world problems, in real world scenario, most of the time we encounter multiple objective problems, that too conflicting in nature. Those objectives are conflicting in nature. At one end we wish to maximize the profit, and on the other end we wish to minimize the cost. Any doubt so far, guys? You can disturb me, you can pause me anytime you have any doubt in your mind. Fine. So optimization problems are everywhere. Let it be automobile domain, let it be music industry, let it be chip design, let it be cloud storage, let it be flight or aircraft scheduling problem, let it be industry resource allocation, let it be medicines, biotechnology, you name any field, in even in sports, and we encounter optimization problems there. So let's take example, and my dear friends, all the slides which I am using, I'm not claiming that these are my slides. Reason behind, I have taken the content from the Google and I have just arranged them in the sequence and modified wherever it was required. So suppose that a very good friend of yours from Australia visits you and he wants to visit all the 485 breweries in London during her 1 week stay. He is there for 1 week only, and he want to visit, or he or she want to visit all the 485 breweries which are there in London in his or her 1 week stay. So the question is, first of all, is it possible? Yeah, if this is feasible, if this is possible, then which route one should take to cover all the 485 breweries? Just a second, hold on. Yes, sir. Yeah. Sorry, guys. So which route one should take so that we are able to cover all the 485 breweries, that too in a period of 1 week? Fine. What can help us out? If we could find out the shortest route, that will certainly help us out. Now, suppose that this is another problem. Imagine you are going for a 2 week trip to California and need to decide which items to pack in your limited sized backpack. This is the problem which we also encounter whenever we are traveling domestic by an aircraft, because we are given a cap of weight of the bag we are carrying, 15 kgs or somewhere 20 or 25 kgs. We cannot carry more than that. Beyond that, we have to pay extra. So suppose that you wish to visit to California for a period of 2 weeks, and you have a limited sized backpack and you have to pack your bag according to the weight and utility of the items that you wish to carry. So is this feasible to pack all the items? This is the question that we need to answer. And if no, how do you decide which items to pack? How do we decide that which we should carry, which we should not? Because each and every item has its weight as well as its utility. Ranking your items in terms of weight and or utility will help us out definitely. If we are able to rank them according to their weight or utility, then we can give preference to utility or to the weight. And if we have data about our past trips, if we have been there earlier, and what will be the weather whenever we are trying to visit California, what kind of weather will be there? If we have this kind of data with us, that is definitely going to help us out. So these are also called data driven decisions. Okay, so data driven optimization problems, we call them. This is an example of an easy optimization problem, which is nothing but a variant of the previous backpack problem. And it's a variant of more famous, you can say, the knapsack problem. So X indicates, suppose that we have a backpack, but we are not constrained that we can carry that many number of items or that many weight with us. So if you can see on these numbers, these are nothing but the utility of an item. The greater the X, the more useful the item. So we can rank them according to their utility, and then we can pick up the number of items that are allowed to carry if we are limited by the number of items. So first question that arises is that how many combinations of items exist and how would you solve this problem? So it's a little bit easy optimization problem because we have only one constraint and we have been provided with sufficient data with us, which is the utility of the item. If we talk about this variant of that knapsack problem, here we are constrained by the weight. Means we cannot carry more than 15 kg in this variant. And then if we have to decide that which items should we carry or can we carry, then it will be a little bit difficult for us to decide. So again, the question is how many subsets of objects exist from which we can pick up, means which subset is the most beneficial for us. And again, the same question lies with us, that is how we can solve this problem. Like as we see in our day-to-day life, Google Map. Sometimes we have to set our parameters, whether we want to escape the toll roads, time is important for us, or distance is important for us, or money is important for us. Accordingly, it will find a route for us. And that is a variant of very famous traveling salesman problem, which is finding the shortest route from the starting city to come back to that city only by traveling the rest of the cities only once. Hope you guys are aware of the traveling salesman problem. So assuming you want to visit K cities, how many different round trips exist, out of which we need to select one? And again, the question is, how would you solve this problem? Is what can be the approaches that can help us out in solving this problem? If we talk about a more real world like problem, then TSP is nothing but a sub problem or variant of the vehicle routing problem. Like we have a depot from where the some items are to be dispatched to different warehouses, you can say, or to the showrooms. So how do we decide the route of the vehicles that carry the item from the depot to the warehouse or to the you can say showroom? What can help us out in that? If we have with us the data from our past trips, what are the customer requests, and what are the traffic conditions? If we are if we are being provided this data, then it will be a little bit easier for us to decide or to take a decision that what should be considered first. So consider traffic data for estimating the travel time and derive customer priorities using customer data. So these were some of the examples of optimization problem that we encounter in our day-to-day life. There are some more examples like vehicle routing. Suppose that you are running a transportation company with your own car and you have a set of pickup and delivery jobs around the town to do tomorrow. Means how do we decide the route? Even if we are having a task list with us, suppose that you have to go to the market tomorrow and you have to perform one job at certain place, then another job at a different place, then third job, then fourth job. You decide in your mind, you try to decide in your mind that what should be my route, which one will be first there and how long will it take. So what sequence of stops should you choose to finish the jobs as early as possible, and what do we actually wish? We wish to come back as soon as possible if we are not going on a leisure trip. Okay. There can be another problem, choice of projects. Suppose that you are leading a big company and your employees have suggested a number of projects to do, each with a known. You are having profit data available with you, you are having cost data, but you have a fixed budget. Then there is a problem in deciding that which projects should you select to maximize the profit. Okay, how we can do that. Okay, then okay, next problem, which is very common problem with the telecommunication industry, or you can say any customer relationship management industry. Suppose that a company want to install a set of emergency centers, and these emergency centers can also be replaced with the, you can say, your BTSs, okay, base transceiver stations in telecommunication industry, while minimizing the cost and making sure that all regions are covered by at least one center. Suppose that we want to install some emergency centers and we wish to cover as much the region as possible, and every center we are having must be covered by at least one emergency center. All the regions must be covered. Suppose that these are the centers. Center 1 covers region 1, 2, 5 and 6. Center 2 covers region 5, 6 and 9. There can be overlapping also. So what should be the minimum number of emergency centers that will allow us to serve all the regions that we are having? This is again an optimization problem, and I will be discussing this problem later also, whenever we will try to formulate an optimization problem mathematically, how we can formulate any optimization problem mathematically. These are some more common examples from our day-to-day life. Portfolio optimization, how to make most of my investment. So we have to identify the variables. What variables will be involved means amounts invested in different assets. You don't invest all your amount in the single asset or a single scheme. Constraints, budget can be a constraint, maximum investment per asset allowed or minimum investment per asset allowed, minimum return that you wish to receive. Objective is you want to minimize your risk and or risk return variance, and at the same time you want to maximize your return or your profit. Similarly, in case of manufacturing processes, uh, equipment sizing can be a variable, order of unit operations can be a variable. Constraints can be manufacturing limits, timing requirements, and objective is to reduce the cost or minimize the cost. In data fitting, we wish to we wish to find a line or find a curve that goes through as much points as possible, which you guys must be doing in machine learning, that this is the data that we wish to find a curve that fits this maximum. Okay. So these are some of the engineering applications of optimization that we apply optimization in design of structural units in construction. What should be the design of any building or machinery, and in space vehicles, what should be the aerodynamics of that vehicle? Like if we are going to design a Formula One car, how it should look like so that it gives more speed or more safety and security. Maximizing benefit or minimizing product costs in various manufacturing and construction processes. So I think most of these things we have already discussed. We also wish to optimize our production planning, control, and scheduling. Okay, optimal allocation of resources or services among several activities to maximize the benefit. We wish to always allocate the resources optimally, like an operating system. Fine. So we need to design a model to achieve this. And in order to build that model, so development of any optimization model can be divided into 5 major phases. First one is the collection of data, which is really very, very important. Without data, we can't do anything. Then problem definition and formulation. By the term formulation, we means mathematical formulation of that problem. Then third one is the development of the model that we do in the machine learning also. Similarly, then the fourth point is model validation. Whatever model we have developed, it should be validated and evaluated for its performance. And then that model can be applied and results can be interpreted. Okay, so these are the 5 phases whenever we are talking about any model, and that model is related to some problem. And this is where the difference arises. Whether the model developed by us is able to solve only a specific problem or it can solve any problem. Okay. So data collection may be time consuming, but it is the fundamental basis of the model building process and extremely important phase of the model building process. Data not only should be available, it should be accurate also. So accuracy of data can have considerable effect on the accuracy of the model. If the data is wrong, then model will definitely be wrong. And on the ability to evaluate the model, right? Problem definition, as we saw earlier while I was discussing the portfolio optimization problem, we need to find the variables that are going to affect our problem. We have to formulate the model's objectives, means what we wish to maximize, what we wish to minimize, and the formulation of the model constraints, means the constraints that are imposed on our problem. And while performing these steps, we must consider the following. What are the important elements of our problem? What are the independent variables? The number of equations required to describe the system, and the number of unknown parameters. The number of unknown parameters should be as small as possible. Okay. Evaluate the structure and complexity of the model and select the degree of accuracy required of the model. Means at what accuracy we can accept or reject the model. Suppose that the accuracy required is 95%. Below that, we are not going to accept it. Like in case of vaccine, you can see whether we are going to accept a vaccine at 90% or 95% or 97%. Fine. Anybody, any doubts so far? Then model development requires the mathematical description of the model, parameter estimation, how the parameters will be estimated, how the input will be developed that will go into the model, and how it will be coded. So the model development phase is an iterative process that may require returning to the model definition and formulation phase. Reason behind whatever feedback do we get, we have to refine our model accordingly. So that's why it's an iterative process in nature. And then model validation and evaluation. Validation means whether it will be evaluated or validated statistically. Like sometimes we use mean square error. Most of the time in machine learning, you people have seen that we use MSE, mean square error. Okay. And then performance of the model is to be evaluated using standard performance measure from statistics like root mean square error or R square value. Those who are well versed with SPSS, they must be knowing all this R square value. Sensitivity analysis can also be done as a test to model inputs and parameters. This phase is also iterative in nature, and reason behind is that it may require returning to the model definition and formulation phase once again if model is not getting validated Means if it fails to validate, then we have to refine our model, and that's why this phase is also iterative in nature, because we have to go through this phase once again. And one important aspect of this process is that in most cases, data used in the formulation process should be different from that used in validation, like your train, test, split. As we do in machine learning, the data that we are using for the training of our model should not be used for its validation. Validation shared data or testing data should be different from the training data, because our model will be biased. Otherwise, our model will become biased towards the training data. It should be robust enough. Then, as we have seen, we were talking about data, data, and data. So, data driven problems, these are some of the examples of optimization problems which are data driven. Suppose that you are a civil engineer and you need to determine the optimal number and location of electric vehicle charging stations in a city. Like companies are facing this problem nowadays. Suppose that they want to install the charging station. They want to find out the location where they should install a charging station so that they get the maximum benefit out of that. What data will be required for that? They will use mobility data to divide the city into hubs and then use this information to facilitate the decision making. Wherever they are having more density, they should install a charging station there for electric vehicles. Similarly, suppose that you are a data scientist and you need to devise a strategy that assigns computational jobs. Cloud people are facing this problem. Computational jobs, that is pieces of code to run to capacity limited cluster. Clustering, load balancing, all these problems, they are also data driven. So suppose that we are having data on their past jobs, means what was the duration and the CPU requirement of jobs, that will help us out in understanding the level of uncertainty in jobs. So these are all examples of data driven optimization problems. Next, suppose that you are a data scientist and you need to decide how much to bid for your product advert to be shown on, for example, Google Shopping or Amazon. आपने देखा होगा, sometimes you must have seen that whenever you start looking for some flight ticket, if you keep watching for its price again, it's keep increasing, because they think that people are looking for this flight, so they can bid more for that. So past bidding data to divide customers into clusters and then use this information to make targeted bids. Fine. So Google, Shopping, Amazon, all these are making use of these things. Sometimes you are trying to buy a product, you look for its price on what is called Flipkart. Then you look for its price on Amazon. Sometimes it is less costly on Amazon and sometimes it is less costly on Flipkart. Their bidding keep changing. This is another example, as I was talking earlier. Suppose that you are a aerodynamic engineer and you need to optimize the shape of a Formula One car to increase corner speed while not losing top speed on the straight significantly. Corner speed we want to increase without affecting much the straight speed, top speed on the straight significantly. So how it can be done? So no closed form function to evaluate new shape of the Formula One car. We can use real physical experiments or complex simulations to evaluate quality of new car shape. Okay. So if we have take a closer look on these data-driven optimization problem, so there are three types of analysis that can be done from the analysis point of view. One is descriptive analytics, second one is predictive, and third one is prescriptive. So descriptive and predictive you are already aware of. Descriptive means what is already happening, which we are able to find out from the reports generated from the data. Means we are just querying, reporting, data capturing, filtering, and analysis. Predictive analysis, what will is likely to happen, means what is our prediction and when it will happen and why it will happen. I think there is some chat message. Just a second. Okay, these are all just good afternoon, good morning messages. So predictive analysis can be done with the help of, you can say, statistical methods like regression. We can do forecasting, we can do data mining. But this prescriptive analysis is very, very important where we wish to know that what should actually happen. And when we want to do this, we have to take help of optimization, simulation, and we require quantitative methods. Because prescriptive analytics suggests decision options on how to take advantage of a future opportunity or mitigate a future risk and shows the implication of each decision option. Sometimes we don't want to enter into that situation that, alas, I could do it. Okay, we don't want to repent on our decisions. So if we wish to take up advantage of a future opportunity, or we wish to mitigate the future risk, then we should do prescriptive analytics. So these are some of the challenges in data-driven optimization that we need to face. First of all, constraints. We need to identify the constraints. What are the constraints imposed on that particular problem? Sometimes there is uncertainty about the data. What data do we actually require in order to solve that problem? We are not able to identify that. Sometimes it requires dynamic or online decision making, or in other words, what you call runtime decision making. As already discussed, multiple conflicting objectives might be there. At one hand, we wish to minimize one thing. On the other hand, we wish to maximize the second thing. So conflicting objectives may be there. Limited data, or data is expensive to obtain. Sometimes we are not handy with the data, and sometimes it is very expensive to obtain. Sometimes we are overwhelmed with the data, means we have huge amount of data, but we don't have the processing capacity so that we can process that in feasible amount of time. And sometimes we need to take care of user preferences. So these are some of the challenges that we face while solving data-driven optimization problems. And these are some of the typical questions that we need to ask while solving the optimization problem. First, what are the methods available, or how can we solve this problem? How long does it take to solve the problem? And is there a better algorithm, or did I find the optimal one? Means the approach we are using, that is the optimal one, or there could be some other better approach than the approach we are using. So these are some of the questions. First of all, how can we solve? Means we are not aware of what are the options available, and we want to predict in advance that how long will it take to solve this problem, and we want to ensure whether the method used by us was the better or there can be another one. Fine. So with these questions, let's move ahead to answer the first query, how to solve these problems. Many approaches are available in the market. Brute force is one of them, which is probably not possible to apply because of the time constraints. And the, you can say, the quality of the answers that we receive from the brute force approach may not be acceptable. Another option can be you may be able to eliminate certain partial tours or items through careful reasoning and data analysis or integration. You have sufficient reasons to eliminate some branches of a tree or state space tree, you can say, or you can remove some items. Another intuitive approach is start with some good guess and then try to improve it iteratively. Start with some good guess. This can be the solution, or this is the point where I should start. And this last one is an example of a heuristic approach to optimization. Guys, may I ask you one thing? Are you aware what is heuristic? You must have heard about this word heuristic earlier also. Heuristic approach. What is the general meaning of this word heuristic? Anyone? You can write down your answer in the chat box also. Pardon? What did you say, ma'am?
Sir, it is a random approach to solve the problem.
Okay. Yes, it's a bit random, but this is something what we learn from our prior experience. Means whenever we try to apply our experience in order to solve a problem where we don't have any defined approach, then we try to apply whatever we have learned from our experience, and that approach is called a heuristic approach. Okay, let's go ahead. Suppose that we are having a real world problem. What process do we follow? Let's see that. Suppose that we are having a real world problem. First, we try to formulate this real world problem into an abstract problem. Then we try to solve that abstract problem with the help of computers. Then we try to interpret the solution that we uh, get corresponding to that abstract problem. You can see that we are not solving the real world problem in its original form. We are solving this by converting it into an abstract problem. And then after interpreting that solution, we implement the solution. So the crux is here only, solve the abstract problem. So now from this point onwards, we will try to focus on this thing, that how can we solve the abstract problem, because this is corresponding to our real world problem. Okay. So let's try to understand first what are abstract problems. Abstract problems are nothing but the problems that we encounter in our day-to-day life, but we have to formulate them differently, like traveling salesman problem, vehicle routing problem, knapsack problem. All these are nothing but the examples of abstract problems. And one more thing, they are also known as combinatorial optimization problems. Why we call them combinatorial? Because there can be number of solutions. Okay, and we have to select one out of that. So in a formal combinatorial optimization problem, we usually try to find data. Data means parameters, decision variables. What are the decision variables? And constraints imposed. These are the three things which we generally try to find in any abstract problem corresponding to our real world problem. And the problem is typically to find values for the variables that optimize some objective function subject to the constraints that we discussed earlier in the very beginning, that any optimization problem is a function of some parameters which we need to tune while satisfying the constraints. And furthermore, These combinatorial optimization problems can be discrete in nature as well as continuous in nature. So, optimizing over some discrete structure gives a combinatorial optimization problem. Here is how we can express them mathematically. Suppose that we have a function. Function is a variable. It is a function of variables. Here it is single variable x. This is only single variable function x. It can be x1, x2, x3, x4. Any number of variables can be there. So it's a maximization kind of function, means maximization problem. Like you can consider that outcome, productivity, profit. That f is a f represents either productivity, either profit or outcome. What are f, s, f and s? X is a vector of decision variables. X is a vector here. A vector means array. So it can be a single element array, or it can be any number, n number of elements array. Fx is our objective function which we wish to maximize or minimize. S is the solution space, total solution space, complete space. And F is the set of feasible solutions, means which can be taken as a feasible solution from that solution space. Fine. So we have to find some feasible solution in feasible amount of time. That is our target. If we talk about the types of combinatorial optimization problem, then it can be convex or non-convex also. Convex, where we are having only one minima or maxima. Non-convex, where it can be more number of minimal points or maximum points. Means in case of convex problems, there is only one minima or maxima. If we talk about from the differential calculus point of view, then minima and maxima we generally try to find. And non-convex point of view, non-convex means there can be more than one minimum or maximum points. Later on, these problems can be divided further into two categories, discrete as well as continuous. If the variables can take on discrete values only, then it is discrete combinatorial optimization problem. And if the variables can take on continuous values, like in machine learning, we do linear regression when we are having a real domain, means variables can take on real values, and otherwise you do logistic regression or something else. So continuous or discrete, both of them further can be divided into either linear or non-linear, constrained and unconstrained, whether there are some constraints imposed on the problem or not, and unconstrained. There can be many more other classifications, like they can be deterministic versus stochastic. I think this topic will be covered in detail in the evening session. Deterministic, what do we mean by deterministic? Where we can firmly identify a solution or firmly find a solution, or starting with the same input, you run it any time, any number of times, you will get the same output. But in case of a stochastic, starting with the same input, you may all get different output all the times. Whether the objective function involves only one variable, or there can be multiple objectives, only single objective is there or multiple objectives are there, computational versus physical evaluations. And we can also categorize combinatorial optimization problem according to online or offline. Okay. So we encounter all the combinatorial problems in all the domains of computer science, like knapsack, planning, scheduling, timetabling problem, vehicle routing, location and clustering, resource allocation, protein structure prediction, all these things. These are some of the examples that we discussed. Now we will try to formulate them mathematically. Suppose that this was the problem that we discussed earlier, combinatorial knapsack problem. Okay, where here we are constrained by the size of the backpack. We wish to maximize the total value of the means. We wish to maximize the revenue while minimizing the number of items. So formalize this problem. When we wish to formalize this problem, first we need to identify what is the search space. Then how do we write down the objective function and the constraints imposed, which are represented as gx. Okay. Hint given to us is that determine theoretically what are the variables, constraints, a candidate solution to the problem, or the criteria we want to optimize. Means criteria will become our objective function. This is how this problem can be formulated mathematically. Here, this is a maximization problem, maximization kind of problem. It's a single objective maximization problem. We wish to maximize our profit. Pi represents the profit given by the ith item. Xi represents the ith item. For all the items available for picking up from 1 to n, we wish to maximize the product of Pi into Xi. Okay, summation of all those. The constraint imposed is subject to means constraint, that the weight of all such items cannot exceed the weight of the carry bag. It should be less than equal to capital W, and capital W represents over here the carrying capacity of the carry bag, you can say. Xi can take on only two values, whether it will be 0 or it will be 1. If it is 0 means we are not going to pick that item. If it is 1 means we are going to pick that item. Okay. So our search space will be like this. X will be equals to 0, 1 raised to the n. Okay. This is an example of that was an example of discrete combinatorial optimization problem where a variable can take on discrete values only, whether it was 0 or it was 1. But here in this example, we can take on continuous values or real values. Suppose that their decision variables are continuous in nature, means they can be chosen from a set of real values. Suppose that we have this problem. A farmer has 400 meter of fence. To fence off a rectangular field that is adjacent to a river, means we need not to fence one side of that field. What is the maximal area he can fence off? We wish to find out the maximal area a farmer can fence off with 400 meter of fence with him when the field is on the bank of a river, you can say. So how can we solve this problem? How can we formulate this problem mathematically? Then the question of solution arises. Number one, how do you formalize this problem and how do you solve it? This is how we can formalize this problem mathematically. We wish to maximize the product of x and y. And the constraint imposed on us is that x plus 2y, this side x, this side y, again this side y, because we need not to fence this side. So x plus 2y cannot exceed 400. Okay, so x plus 2y should be equal to 400 if we wish to achieve the optimal result. And both x and y can take on values from the real domain, that is R plus. Okay. Then can anybody answer what will be the area that we can fence off maximally? Let's see the answer. From this constraint, we can get the value of x as 400 minus 2y. And if we replace this value, put this value of x in our objective function, then it becomes fx equal to 400y minus 2y square. And from the concept of differential calculus, because this is a maximization problem, so we want to find the maxima. And if we want to find the maxima, we will differentiate it with respect to the variable that is y in this equation. So we will differentiate fx with respect to y and will put it equal to 0. So whenever we put 400 minus 4y, which is the differentiation of 400y minus 2y square equal to 0, we get the value of y as 100, and with the help of this value of y as 100, we can get the value of x as 200. So the maximum area that we can fence off is 200 by 100. Okay. Similarly, how we can formulate this service center problem, where we wish where we wanted to set or install a set of emergency center so that we could service most of the regions which are covered by at least one center. Each and every region must be covered by at least one center. It may be serviced by more than one, but no region should be left without service or emergency center. So how we can formulate this problem? Let's suppose that we have to cover M regions, where M is the set. Capital M represents the set of M regions ranging from 1 to M. Capital N represents the set of potential centers. The size of N should be as small as possible. So we may have to put small n up to n small n number of potential centers. Suppose that Sj, which is the subset of M, be the regions that can be serviced by center J. Suppose that there is some emergency center J and it can service let's say 5 or 6 or 4 you can say the regions. So those 4, 5 or 6 regions, the set of those all 4, 5 or 6 regions is being represented by Sj. So Sj represents the number of regions serviced by center J, and let Cj be the installation cost of the center J. So what should be our objective? We wish to cover as many regions as possible, in fact all the regions. We wish to install as less number of potential centers as possible, means capital N, size of capital N should be as small as possible. Okay. And Cj should be as minimum as possible. So our objective function will become like this. We wish to minimize cost Cj, which is the summation of all the centers that we are going to install, such that union of all the regions covered by these centers which we are going to install is equal to M. J belongs to T. T is what? T should be the subset of N, means T will consist of elements from the set capital N, and it should be somewhere less than N. Okay. So this is how do we formulate a combinatorial optimization problem. This is very, very important, because if you are not able to formulate your problem, then you can not solve it, because any method, any approach that can be applied, that is applied to solve this objective function only. So what we have experienced so far, there are many problems, there are many algorithms to solve those problems, but which one should we pick? There are many problems with different properties, and for each problem, it seems a different algorithm should be used. And if you are aware, then there is one characteristic of algorithms that it should be generic, means it should be applicable to as large number of problems as possible. And what is the practice? We try to, means important to categorize your problem first in order to find or develop the right method. First, we should be able to categorize our problem to what category it belongs to. And then we can design the right algorithm that involves a combination of special knowledge, creativity, and luck. So algorithms again can be of different types. They can be deterministic, they can be stochastic, they can be exact, they can be approximation algorithms, they can be heuristics, they can be single objective heuristics, they can be multi-objective heuristics, or they can be any time algorithms. Okay. Exact methods we generally study during our design and analysis of algorithms course, means like your sorting, searching approaches. Approximation algorithms means which try to find the near optimal solution. They are not bound to provide the exact solution. Exact algorithms are bound to provide exact solution, but they may take infeasible amount of time. Whereas approximation algorithms are bound to find near optimal solution, but they should take less time. That's why they have their applicability in the domain. So as said in the previous slide, there can be exact algorithms like branch and bound, branch and cut, like that. Approximation algorithms means which are able to find near optimal solution, but that near optimal solution should be, they should be able to find in feasible time. Heuristic methods are non-deterministic in nature, means they are not bound to find the exact solution, means sometimes they are not even able to find the solution. And there is one more category which is called meta-heuristic methods, which incorporate one more component. They are also non-deterministic like heuristic methods, but they incorporate one more thing which is called randomization in order to avoid getting trapped into the local minima or local maxima. Okay. So I think we can skip these slides. Exact algorithms you guys are aware of. Yeah. Any question from Om Prakash Singh?
Sir.
Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, you have talked about this non-deterministic and deterministic, first of all.
Yes. Yes. Non-deterministic means where we are not sure whether it will be able to solve the problem or not. Deterministic means we are sure that it will solve the problem at hand.
So that's the definition of deterministic, non-deterministic.
No, that's not the definition of deterministic and non-deterministic. That is what they mean actually. Definition, if we talk about, that will be a little bit different as per the books.
Right, sir. So when we talk about this supervised and unsupervised algorithm,
yes,
we generally categorize the problem on the basis of their problem basis, but not with the supervised and unsupervised algorithm.
Yes.
Right, sir?
Unsupervised means like non-deterministic.
We can categorize.
Yeah, they are parallel to those.
Okay, fine, sir.
Okay, supervised means we have some data with us to supervise, to feed to that algorithm. We have some information, we have some guidance.
Right, sir.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sir, one thing more.
Yeah.
So you have told this traveling salesman problem as order of n cube.
No, I said that it can be solved in order of n cube time, but some instances of that problem only. This one. That too with the help of approximation algorithm. One thing which I skipped is that here you will be able to find not the optimal tour length, but maybe up to 150% of that. Suppose that you wish to find an optimal tour between an n number of cities, okay, and the optimal tour length would have been say 20. But with the help of approximation algorithm, you are getting a solution that gives you an answer of, let's say, 30. So this is 1.5 times of the optimal value. Okay. So sometimes if we are able to get one opt solution, then it is like exact algorithm. If we are able to get 1.5 opt or 2 opt or 3 opt, up to 3 opt we go. Beyond that, we don't prefer approximation algorithms.
Right, sir.
Okay.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
So
One
that
thing.
approximation algorithm can find out that a near optimal solution in order of n cube time.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. So yeah, exact methods for COP. As in case of COP, we have a finite number of solution, and exact methods guarantee to find the optimal solution, but even then we don't use them. The reason behind is their response time. Okay. Exact methods are good for limited problem sizes. They are perhaps good for instances at hand, and they often form the basis for approximation methods. And they are often good for simplified problems. As we said earlier, that sometimes we try to find a good guess that from where should we start. So they can form that basis because they are very time consuming sometimes. So these are some of the reasons why don't we always use exact methods, which I have already told you that it may take infeasible amount of time, which makes their use prohibited in most of the cases while we are solving real world problems, because they are optimization problems in nature, and many times they are NP or NP complete or NP hard in nature. Okay, like in colleges we have to design a timetable, and timetable we all know that it is an NP complete problem. Even then we are doing it. We didn't surrender. We are doing it even manually sometimes we develop a software. That software we know that will not be able to solve that problem exactly, but even then we are trying to solve those problems. Sometimes what happens that the link between the real world problem and the forward problem is weak. There also we cannot apply the exact methods. So that is where the applicability of these approximation method or heuristic method or meta heuristic methods comes into. So let's have an idea on approximation algorithms. As opposed to exact algorithms, approximation algorithms do not guarantee to find the optimal solution. However, there can be a bound on their quality of the solution that they find. Suppose, for example, for a maximization problem, the algorithm can guarantee to find a solution whose value is at least half that of the optimal value. Let me make it clear with the help of an example. Suppose that you have to appear for an examination. You are not prepared. The maximum marks you can score in that exam is 100. If you would have got a chance to prepare throughout the year, you would have scored 100 marks. But this time you are being given only, let's say, a time of 10 days. Then you start looking for something which can help you out in maximizing your score. And at that point of time, say, let's say some coaching institution says that if you join our coaching, then we will prepare you so that you will get at least 50 marks, not below than that. And if you get below 50 marks, then we will refund your fee. So this is a kind of approximation approach. Means they can give you a guarantee that the solution provided by us, the answer provided by us will not be worse than this value. So there is a bound actually. So we will not discuss approximation algorithms here because we wish to move forward towards heuristic algorithm. We will just try to use them as a contrast to heuristic algorithms. So the contrast is like this. Heuristic algorithms are non-deterministic, means they do not have any bound on the solution quality, whereas approximation algorithms have a bound on the solution quality. So heuristic algorithms do not guarantee to find the optimal solution. However, heuristic algorithms do not even necessarily have a bound on how bad they can perform. Not only they have any bound, but they can perform worse. Even then we use heuristic approaches. What is the reason behind that? The reason is that they can return a solution that is arbitrarily bad compared to the optimal solution. But in practice, heuristic algorithms, or heuristics for short, have proven their success in solving many real world optimization problems so far. So from this applicability of heuristic algorithms, they are being means being developed in since last 3 decades. Okay, so I think this can be skipped. Search heuristic. Heuristics, if I talk about heuristic methods, then any approach you develop from your experience, that can be termed as a heuristic method. And if I talk about very broadly, then suppose that there is something which has been hidden in a ground, and you have been asked to search for that. Now you apply your logic, you apply your own mind, and if you are able to find it, it will become yours only. So the approach that you follow in order to search for that, you can say property, or you can say some money is there that has been hidden, which will become yours. The approach that you follow, that is called a heuristic approach. And as early as you are able to find that thing, that search heuristic will be considered that good. Okay. So there are number of approaches that have been developed in the literature in last 3 decades. They range from, say, rather simple to quite sophisticated approaches, and they are generally inspired. They take their inspiration sometimes from their human problem solving approaches like rule of thumb, common sense rules, or sometimes they are based on the problem solving experience. Sometimes they are based on natural processes like evolution, swarm behaviors. Yeah, like you must have heard about ant colony optimization, artificial bee colony, particle swarm optimization. There are some physics based approaches, there are some chemistry based approaches, right? So usually used when there is no other method to solve the problem under given time or space constraints. See, if we have an exact method to solve the problem at hand, and that exact method can solve that problem in feasible amount of time, we should not think about heuristic methods. Reason behind, they do not guarantee that they will find the solution. They may totally waste our time. But if the exact method we know that it may take an infeasible amount of time, then we may consider heuristic methods. And they are often simpler to implement or develop than any other method. So this is the difference between mathematical programming community and the heuristic community. Mathematical programming community, when solving a problem, they transform the problem into a certain structure as they try to formulate it mathematically. They try to make use of standardized algorithms that have been developed in the literature long back. These are the algorithms that are often based on solving convex subproblems, means having only one minima or one maxima. They can guarantee to find the optimal solution. They are time consuming for difficult, high dimensional problems. Where possible, we should use mathematical programming approaches only. And then we have heuristic based community that solves the optimization problem. They try to deal with the problem as it is. And the problem with these heuristic approaches may be that they are often problem specific or problem dependent. It means one approach that can be applied to one kind of problem that cannot be applied to another kind of problems. And the goal always is to find a good solution, that too in reasonable time. That is what makes them applicable to most of the problems, because sometimes they are, many of the times they are able to find a near optimal or good solution, that too in reasonable time, where the exact approaches fail. So there is one layer above, as we have to discuss the nature inspired approaches also. So meta heuristic belong to the, most of the meta heuristics are nature inspired approaches. So this term was first of all coined by Fred Glover in 1986. And generic heuristic solution approaches designed to control and guide a specific problem oriented heuristics. These are generic in nature, means they are not problem specific, and they are often inspired from analogies with natural processes, maybe evolutionary approaches, maybe swarm behavior, maybe taboo search or annealing, simulated annealing kind of approaches. They have a very rapid development over the last 3 decades. You can find n number of meta heuristic approaches in the literature. So just have a brief introduction of meta heuristics. It's a relatively new field which has emerged in last 3 decades only, started in 80s or so, in 1986 to be very precise. And it became possible because we can now afford vast amounts of computation, because they also require, like machine learning or deep learning, they also require vast amount of processing or computation power. They are inspired from AI rather than from pure math. They are not pure mathematical approaches. And there is lack of theoretical rigor, means if you ask us to prove them theoretically, then it may not be possible. But they have proven their applicability by finding the solutions to real world problems in feasible amount of time. They can address both discrete as well as continuous domain optimization problem. They are the strategies that guide the search process. In fact, any heuristic, exact, meta heuristic, any approach that is nothing but a guiding, you can say guide to the search process. How do we search for the thing that we wish to look for? Okay. And in our case, it is the solution. They also range from simple local search procedures to complex adaptive learning processes. They can be simple as local search procedure, or they can be very, very complex in nature. Usually they are non-deterministic and usually incorporate mechanisms to avoid getting trapped in confined areas of the search space. As we discussed earlier, that they incorporate one component which is called randomization, okay, in order to introduce the diversity, or you can say getting trapped out of that local minima or local maxima. They are not problem specific, and they may use some form of memory. Sometimes they may use memory, but sometimes they may not. If they are making use of memory, they may better guide the search process. These are some of the examples or popular frameworks of meta-heuristic approaches: genetic, simulated, taboo, scatter search, aunt-colony optimization, PSO, iterated local search, VNS, adaptive memory programming. List is so vast that it is not possible for me to incorporate each one of them in this slide. Two things that we need to know before going into the details of any meta-heuristic approach is what is neighborhood and what is a move. Okay. So a neighborhood, which we represent by this term CS, means neighborhood of S S is the solution. Around a solution S is a function that returns a subset of solutions that are somehow close or related to S. And this neighborhood implies a direction of search. Sometimes we may have multiple neighborhoods. They can be defined for a solution S, means multiple neighborhoods can also be defined for a solution S. This is another category of meta heuristics, whether it is single neighborhood or multiple neighborhood. It could be exhaustive or not. Okay. Neighborhood can be exhaustive or it cannot be exhaustive. Generally, it is not exhaustive. Move means from S dash to S constitutes a choice of solutions S dash that belongs to the neighborhood of S. Means from this point where we will go next. Okay. So classification of meta heuristics can be done on several grounds. First one is based on the inspiration, where they are inspired from. Like they can be nature inspired, they can be non-nature inspired. Like nature inspired approaches are like genetic algorithms, ant colony optimization. Non-nature inspired are taboo search, iterated local search. But a classification may not be mutually exclusive. An algorithm may belong to more than one classification. Meta-heuristic can also be classified according to whether it is a single static objective function or it has dynamic objective function. Static objective function means objective function will remain fixed throughout the iteration of the algorithm, and dynamic objective function means where we can change our objective function during the execution of the algorithm. Third one is whether it makes use of memory or it does not make use of memory. Sometimes it has been observed that the meta-heuristics that make use of memory are means provide good results over memory-less algorithms. And memory can be short-term as well as long-term. Fourth classification is based on whether they use multiple types of neighborhoods, means as we said earlier, whether it makes use of single neighborhood or multiple neighborhood. So most of the algorithms, most of the meta-heuristic approaches are make use of one neighborhood only, but there are certain meta-heuristic approaches which make use of multiple neighborhoods also. This is very, very important, this classification number 5, which is whether it is a trajectory based or single trajectory based or it is a population based method. Means initial guess or initial solution is one only, or we start with n number of solutions initially based on whether the search evolves one or multiple solutions. Okay. So taboo search, simulated annealing, iterated local search, they belong to the trajectory methods, while genetic algorithm, ant colony optimization, adaptive memory programming, and many others, they are based on population-based methods. So trend is towards population-based methods nowadays with integration of proven ideas from trajectory methods. Okay. Okay. Single trajectory based meta heuristics. So this is the, you can say the pseudo code. How do they work? We start with an initial solution at time t equal to 0 and we repeat the process like we generate the candidate solutions, which can be partial or complete neighborhood from the initial solution at time t. This is called, this function we use generate CST. It can be coded as per your requirement. And then we select a solution from this neighborhood, which becomes the solution at time t plus 1. Okay. Until we repeat this process until the stopping criteria is satisfied, and the output is once the algorithm stops if we have reached to the conclusion or the time has passed. It can be explained like this. It can be, see, suppose that this is the solution space. Okay. Now we start with the solution S0. Are you able to see this? This is our initial, let me take the pen. This is our initial solution S0. Okay, at time 0. Then, excuse me. Then we find the neighborhood of this initial solution, which is represented as CS0. So in our neighborhood, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 solutions in the neighborhood of this solution S0, initial solution S0. Then let's suppose that we pick this solution S1. This has been picked. Let me mark it. This has been picked as the next solution. So now we will repeat the process of generating the neighborhood, and we will try to generate the neighborhood of this solution S1. How it will happen? This is the CS1, neighborhood of this solution S1. There are number of solutions in this neighborhood. Then again, if the stopping criteria has not been met, then we will again generate the neighborhood of this solution S1. First of all, we will try to find out, we will try to select a solution in this neighborhood CS1. Let's suppose that we have selected this S2. This is the solution that we have selected S2. Okay, now we will try to generate the neighborhood of this S2. And then we will try to find a solution in this neighborhood until the stopping criteria is met, and this way it will keep going on. Okay, so this was the process that we followed. But while performing this process, suppose that these 2 points which are shown in this yellow color, this one and this one, these were the global optimal solutions, but we missed both the global optimal solution. When did we miss it? First was missed while generating the neighborhood of this initial solution S0. We missed it. We missed it during the generation of the neighborhood of S1 also. And second global optimal solution was missed when we picked a solution in this neighborhood, which was this one, S1. Okay, CS1. We missed this one. Okay. So population-based meta-heuristics, how do they work? Here we start with n number of solutions. Here we start with n number of solutions. N number of solutions like this. This is our 0th population. Suppose that we generate some new points in the next iteration. Then we drop some old points because we have generated some new solutions, but the number of solutions will remain fixed. So we have to drop some old points. Okay. Then this is considered our first population. Like similarly, we will generate the second population, means next iteration. And similarly, until the stopping criteria is met. So if we talk about the single trajectory based methods, then there are numerous methods which can come under the head of this single trajectory based: basic local search, simulated annealing, taboo search, grasp, guided local search, okay, variable neighborhood, and iterated local search. They are a bit old. This is the pictorial representation of that neighborhood kind of thing on the surface. It is a convex surface or non-convex surface. It's a non-convex one. Suppose that we start from here, then we can denote the neighborhood like this, then we try to find a solution because it is a minimization problem. So we will try to go downwards and we will try to find a solution in this neighborhood only. Suppose that this is the solution in this neighborhood, which is at the minimum point. Then we will try to find the neighborhood of this solution, new solution now. This is the neighborhood of this solution. And then we will try to again find a point or solution in this neighborhood, in this region only. This is the point which is at the minimum. But as you can see from this surface, this is not the globally minimum point of the 3 minimum points available on this surface. As you can see, this is one minimum point, this is another minimum point, and this is another minimum point. These 3 are minimum points, but which one is the global minimum? This one is the global minimum. But now it gets trapped into this local minimum, because whenever we try to find the next neighborhood and we try to find an optimal solution in that neighborhood, it will not find any solution. The reason behind all the solutions found in its neighborhood will now be of inferior quality. But we know that this solution is not globally optimal solution. Okay, this neighborhood. In this neighborhood, it is not able to find any optimal solution now. So local optimum is found and it cannot improve. So this is the problem with basic local search, that it gets trapped into local minima. And so we have to incorporate some strategy here so that we can come out of this minima. Local optimal minima means we need to take a jump, and that is called randomization. Randomness that we introduce here only. Okay. So there are certain approaches which help us out in escaping the local optima. So these are certain some approaches. We can iterate with different solutions. We can change the landscape of the problem. We can accept non-improving neighbors. So these are the approaches, means taboo search and simulated annealing. Follow this approach in order to avoid getting trapped into local optima. They start accepting non-improving neighbors. If they are having two options, one is improving neighbor, one is non-improving neighbor, they can opt for non-improving neighbor also, just to avoid getting trapped into the local optima. These are some methods. Some other approaches means multi-start local search can also be there, like it was basic local search. We can have multi-start local search, means the search that will start at different points, and whichever reaches to the global minimum first, that will be accepted. Okay. Two more terms, or you can say which any meta heuristic algorithm need to balance. They are called intensification and diversification. Intensification means when we try to find the optimal solution in a small region which is promising to us. Okay. And diversification, initially diversification means looking for non-improving, you can say, or different regions. Initially, diversification should be high, and later on, whenever we are towards the convergence, intensification should be high. But the balance is required between these two things, and any meta-heuristic algorithm which is capable of finding that balance, that is considered a good meta-heuristic. Okay, that is one criteria. A meta-heuristic which is able to find a good balance between intensification and diversification in a very short period of time. So every meta-heuristic aspires to do both. Many have parameters to control this balance. They have their own parameters. And this is where the problem arises. If we wish to compare two or more meta heuristics, we may compare on the basis of this also, that if a algorithm or a meta heuristic is having many number of parameters, that may not be very effective sometimes in comparison to the one which is having less number of parameters to control. And often these parameters can be changed dynamically during search. Even we have started applying machine learning in this field now, or this field into the machine learning, in order to find the optimal values of these parameters. Initially, focus is on diversification, as I said, and later on intensification, and then it can cycle back. Simulated annealing, which is a non-nature inspired approach and is based on the idea of metallurgy, where we heat treatment is given to let's say glass or to some other metal. So initially we provide heat or give heat to that component, and then later on we try to we try to just cut down the temperature, you can say, or try to cool it down so that it can get the shape whatever we require. Like in case of glass, suppose that you want to mold the glass into some shape, then we have to heat it up to a certain temperature, and where it dilutes, like it becomes like water, and then we try to cool it down. Okay. So annealing is performed by heating the material for a while and then slowly letting it cool to room temperature. So I think instead of discussing all this, we can move to a practical example. Yeah, taboo search we can use, how it works in order to solve a problem. This is the pseudocode. Initially, we generate an initial solution which is represented by S. It maintains a taboo list. Taboo list means forbidden list kind of. So initially it is empty until and unless the termination conditions are met. We choose best of NS. NS means from the neighborhood of that solution, which is not there in the taboo list, not in the taboo list. And then we update our taboo list. Okay. This is the simple taboo search algorithm. Let's see how it is implemented and how it can solve the problem. We will see it manually. This is used mainly for the discrete problems, and the taboo list constitutes short-term memory. Earlier we discussed the concept of short-term and long-term memory, so that can also be applied here. Short-term memory, taboo list, size of taboo list means short-term memory. Size of taboo list, or you can say the tenure, it is finite. And since solution in taboo list are off limits, it helps escape local minima by forcing uphill moves if no improving move is available, and it avoids cycling. Okay. So let's see. Last point, this one, solutions enter and leave the list in FIFO order, means first in, first out order usually. स्मॉल टेन्योर, जो टेन्योर की अभी हम बात कर रहे थे, वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट द साइज ऑफ द टाबू लिस्ट और टेन्योर. तो दैट लोकलाइजेस सर्च, मीन्स इट handles the intensification property, and large tenure forces exploration of wider space, means if the size or the tenure is large, it means diversification, and small tenure means intensification. And tenure can change dynamically during the search, which we will see. Size of a tenure is a form of long-term memory. Okay. So let's see a problem. Suppose that this is the problem that we wish to solve with the help of taboo search. However, it is a small instance. Even then it will allow us to understand how the taboo search works. Suppose that there are only 4 cities, A, B, C, and D, and these are the distances given between the 2 cities. There are some distances which are symmetric, there are some distances which are asymmetric. Like from A to C, it is 1.5, while from C to A, it is 0.5 only. Okay. Taboo list, here we are using the tenure size 3 only. Suppose that this is the solution trajectory. Solution trajectory means we go from A to B, B to C, C to D, and then D to A, and this is the cost involved, 5.5. If you add up all these, 1 plus 1 plus 1.5 plus 2. This is how the solution will be represented. Solution means a tour, like this is a solution only, A to B, B to C, C to D, D to A. Move is means what step do we take in order to optimize further. We will swap consecutive pair, means AB can be swapped like BA, BC can be swapped like CB, CD can be swapped like DC, and DA can be swapped like AD. Okay. So these are the next possible moves. When we swap A and B, so we will start from city B, so B to A, then rest will remain same, A to C, C to D, and D to B. Because it is a variant of TSP, we have to come back to the initial city only. So that's why if we started from B, then we have to come back to B only. Okay. So in this move, we swapped A and B. In this second move, we are going to swap this B and C. So it will become CB. So BC is being swapped. So A remains the same. A was here, A is here. BC को हमने swap कर दिया. We make it CB and then DA. So A to C, C to B, B to D, and then D to A. Similarly, when we swap CD, it becomes A, B, D, C, A. And then when we swap DA, it becomes AD. So D, B, C, A, D. Because we are going to end at D, we will start with D only. Okay. Yeah. Then we calculate the cost. If we go from B to A to C, C to D, and then D to B, it will cost us 5. This will cost us 9.5. This will cost us 4.0, and this will cost us 4.5. Which one is minimum? This one is minimum. Third one is minimum. So we will put it into our taboo list. Okay. So CD will become part of our taboo list, and we will select this solution, third solution, as our next solution. Okay. You can see from here, A, B, D, C, A with value 4 has become our next solution, and CD has come into our taboo list. Now we will start from this, and we will avoid that possibility which is there in our taboo list. Now AB can be replaced, BD can be replaced, means B or D, but DC can't be, because DC, when we swap D and C, it will become CD, and it will lead us to the previous solution, which was inferior in quality. Okay. So CD, we will accept only those possibilities which are not there in our taboo list. So you can verify from here. We can go for AB, we can go for BD, but we will never go for DC, because whenever we swap DC, it will become CD, and it will become same A, B, C, D, A, which was earlier. So out of these 4, this is not acceptable. Only these 3 are possible. So out of these 3, which one is with the least cost? 4.5. So we will accept this solution as BD1. Okay. So BD has become part of our tenure list now, and we have picked this solution with the cost 4.5, and now we will opt for next possibility. So similarly, we will go again, and we will opt for another solution like this. And once our tenure or taboo list is filled, we will the entry that went into this taboo list first, it will go out, means CD will go out and next BA will take its place. This is how we implement our taboo search. Okay. And the size of this taboo list means tenure size, you can say that controls intensification and diversification. What could happen if tenure were 2 instead of 3? Because here we were using tenure of 3. What will happen if we reduce it to 2, or what if we make it 4 instead of 3? Okay. So suppose that we make the size of taboo list 2, then decreasing tenure provides intensification and increasing tenure provides for diversification. So tenure size of the taboo list is the parameter that balances or that tries to control these two concepts of intensification and diversification. Okay. And Manishji, do we have time? Can I go for genetic algorithm also? Manishji?
Yes, sir.
Manishji, do we have time? Can I go with another example or?
I think we should bind up, sir, because
Okay.
lunch time is going to
Lunch
start,
time is there. Okay,
and
I will share.
next
I
session
have
is also
already
at
shared the
2:30.
slides. So if anybody asks, you
Yeah,
can share the slides with them.
yeah.
Okay,
Sure,
sir.
sir.
So I will skip all these
Just
slides.
summarize, sir. Yeah.
So
Participants want to ask any question?
yeah, I think we can take questions. If anybody have any question, we can take questions.
Anybody want to ask any question? Okay. Thank you, Arun sir.
Thank you, sir.
I,
Thank you
Manish
so
Kumar
much.
Sharma, on behalf of IT Department, ABS Engineering College, Ghaziabad, a very hearty vote of thanks to Professor Agrawal for gracing the event with your presence and sharing with your finding and opinion about the basics of optimization and nature-inspired approach. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir.
so much. Thank you all the participants for your patient listening.
Participant, please fill the feedback form available in chat box
Okay, Manish.
as well. Also, okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.